He woke up to the sound of quiet footsteps, soft, controlled, unfamiliar. When he turned, his entire world froze. A powerful CEO stood in his kitchen, wearing his shirt. Her eyes weren't just watching him, they were studying him, as if he were a problem to solve. She whispered something that made his chest tighten, something that shouldn't have been possible for a black single father living in a neighborhood people like her never stepped into. And in that moment, he realized this wasn't just about last night, it was about a truth far bigger than him. What was she really here for? Comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories. Before that morning turned his world upside down, Jordan lived a life built on quiet resilience. Every day started the same: an early alarm, a worn toolbox, and a silent prayer that the next job would be enough to keep the lights on. As a black single father in a neighborhood people in the city pretended not to see, he carried his burdens quietly. Not because he wanted to, because he had no other choice. His daughter, Amara, was the heartbeat of his world. 7 years old, bright-eyed, always asking questions about galaxies, animals, and why people treated some folks differently. Jordan never had the perfect answers, but he tried. He taught her kindness before caution, hope before fear, though the world often taught her the opposite. Every time someone clutched their purse when he walked by, every time he was followed through a store, every time a job paid him less than promised, Jordan swallowed it, shielding Amara from pain he knew too well. Money was tight, but love was not. Their small home wasn't much peeling paint, uneven floors, but it was theirs, or at least it felt that way. Jordan fixed pipes, replaced wiring, patched leaks, anything to provide stability for the one person who made his life worth living. He had no idea how sharply his life was about to turn. That night, the storm rolled through the city like an angry warning: violent rain, roads flooding, alarms blaring. Jordan should have headed straight home, but he stayed late to finish a job because the paycheck meant groceries for the week. He didn't know that the storm would place him on a dark road at the exact moment a luxury car spun out of control and slammed into a tree. He didn't know the woman inside, Madison Hayes, a powerful CEO whose world looked nothing like his, would enter his life in a way no one could predict. And he didn't know that the events of that night would expose a truth far bigger than the storm. The storm turned the night into a blur of darkness, rain slashing sideways, roads swallowed by water, sirens echoing somewhere far away. Jordan gripped the steering wheel of his old truck, wiping the fog from the windshield as he pushed through the flooded streets. He was exhausted, but he kept going. A luxury car crushed against a tree, smoke rising through the rain. Jordan slammed the brakes. Instinct took over. He jumped out into the downpour, boots sinking into muddy water as he ran toward the wreck. Through the shattered glass, he saw her, Madison Hayes, pale, shaking. Her seatbelt jammed tight across her chest. For a split second, he hesitated. Not because he feared helping, but because he knew how the world worked. A black man breaking into a stranded white woman's luxury car at night, in this neighborhood, in this country, this could end badly for him in 100 different ways. But he shoved the thought down. Someone needed help. Someone was dying, and Jordan had never been the kind of man who walked away. He smashed the window with his elbow, ignoring the sting as glass sliced his skin. "Hold on," he muttered, though she couldn't hear him. The smoke grew thicker. Flames licked the edges of the hood. He cut the seatbelt loose, pulled her out, and carried her through the storm just seconds before the engine erupted in fire. Inside his small home, he laid her on his own bed, the only real bed in the house, covering her with blankets while her breathing steadied. Amara peeked around the doorway, worry on her face, but Jordan reassured her gently. The storm raged outside, but inside, the night slowly calmed. Morning changed everything. Jordan walked into the kitchen and froze. Madison Hayes stood there wearing his white work shirt, hair messy, eyes sharp. There was something unsettling about the way she watched him. It wasn't fear, it wasn't gratitude, it was calculation, as if she was comparing the life she knew to the life she was suddenly standing in. She wasn't just unexpected, she was out of place, like a piece of a different world accidentally dropped into his. And then came the moment Jordan would never forget. She placed a stack of bills on the table, hundreds, maybe thousands. This should cover last night. Jordan felt his stomach twist. The offer wasn't generosity, it was dismissal, a way to tidy up the inconvenience of being helped by a black man in a rundown neighborhood, a way to turn a moment of humanity into a transaction. He pushed the money back across the table. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply said, "Take it back." She didn't understand, not at first. People like her weren't used to being refused. Her world ran on deals, on influence, on control. But Jordan wasn't selling anything. Not his kindness, not his dignity, not the way he wanted his daughter to see him. When Madison left, the silence she left behind was heavy. Jordan thought that was the end of it. But 3 days later, a black luxury sedan rolled into Amara's school parking lot, and Madison Hayes stepped out, sharp suit, cold expression, and something else in her eyes. Determination. She hadn't come to thank him. She had come to change his life, and not all change is safe. The parking lot fell silent the moment Madison Hayes stepped out of the sleek black sedan. Parents stared, teachers whispered, and a few people instinctively pulled their children closer, not because of her, but because of who she was walking toward. A wealthy white CEO in a neighborhood like this, approaching a black father covered in grease from the school's broken pipes. It drew looks, assumptions, judgments. Jordan felt every one of them. Madison stopped inches from him. Her calm, polished tone cut through the air. "Jordan, we need to talk." Before he could answer, a security guard from the school rushed over, hand hovering near his walkie-talkie, posture stiff. "Ma'am, is everything all right? Do you need help?" His eyes weren't on Madison. They were locked on Jordan, as if he were the threat, as if Jordan, a father fixing pipes to keep the school running, was the danger standing beside a CEO. Jordan swallowed, feeling the familiar burn in his chest. He'd been here before, watched suspicion form before he even opened his mouth, watched people look at his skin instead of his character. Madison's jaw tightened, and before the guard could say another word, she stepped between them. "I'm here for him." The guard blinked, frozen, confused. Madison pulled out her phone, showing the grainy security footage. Jordan pulling her from the burning car, smoke swirling, flames rising behind them. "This man saved my life," she said loudly enough for half the parking lot to hear, "and this city should know his name." The crowd shifted, some embarrassed, some stunned, some still unconvinced. Jordan felt exposed, like every moment of his life was suddenly under a spotlight he never asked for. Then Madison handed him an envelope. "I bought the property you rent. As of this morning, it's yours." Jordan's breath stopped. People watching didn't see kindness. They saw a transaction, a scandal, speculation, phones lifted, cameras pointed, whispers spread like sparks. Why would she give a black man a house? What's really going on here? What did he do to deserve that? Jordan could feel the weight of every word. The gift that should have lifted him instead painted a target on his back. He didn't know what scared him more, Madison's intentions or the world's reaction to them. And as he opened the envelope, heart pounding, he understood one thing. This wasn't generosity. This was the moment his life would never go back to normal. Jordan stood in the parking lot long after the crowd had scattered, the envelope still trembling in his hands. Inside were the documents confirming ownership of the house he'd spent years struggling to afford, now transferred to him with a single signature. It should have felt like relief, freedom, a chance to finally breathe. But instead, he felt the weight of every stare he'd endured, the assumptions, the whispers, the doubt that followed him not because of who he was, but because of what he looked like. Madison thought she was doing something right, something fair, and in many ways, she was. But fairness didn't erase the truth. Jordan had nearly lost his life rescuing her, and still, people questioned him. They questioned his worth, his intentions, his right to be seen as anything other than a stereotype stitched into their minds. Yet despite everything, Amara's small hand slipped into his, warm, trusting, full of belief no one had yet managed to take from her. "Daddy," she whispered, "you always tell me kindness matters, even when people don't understand it." Her words anchored him, pulled him back into himself, reminded him that his story wasn't defined by the world's perception, it was defined by the choices he made in the darkness. Madison didn't walk away either. She stayed, listened, learned, and for the first time, someone from the other side of the line stepped over it, not out of pity, but out of responsibility. Their paths had collided by accident, but what came after was a choice, a conscious one. Jordan accepted the house, not because he needed saving, but because accepting it meant giving Amara a future without the instability he'd grown up with, a future where she wouldn't inherit the same battles he fought every day. But the larger truth lingered. How many Jordans were out there? How many stories like his went unseen, unheard, unacknowledged? How many black fathers had to fight twice as hard just to be believed, respected, or simply safe? Jordan's life changed that day, but the world around him, it still had a long way to go. And the question remains, how many more stories like his must unfold before the world finally decides to change?